All right. Let's see. So we got, is Apple's new AI spying on you with some ordinary gamers? Let's do this.
Hello guys and gals, me Mudahark, SAO. Ladies and gentlemen, the internet is a wild place. Now, I've always made privacy a real focus on my channel. Always talked about how to keep your data safe, especially against hackers, especially against weird, rootkit, malware, things of that nature. But, for me, privacy is something that, I get a bit of a criticism for. Sometimes people ask me, why do I use 700 virtual machines? Well, it's because I like running weird code underneath sandboxes, because even if the code is malicious or if it's not, the furthest it's ever going to get is the little sandbox that I gave it. Now, I really have nothing to hide. I mean, the most degenerate stuff that you're going to find on my computer is probably like some Futanari stuff. Okay, that's about as wild as you're going to get. Okay,
What is that? What is Futanari? Should I Google that? Off screen? They spell it right? Oh, X videos? Ooh. Wow. This is interesting. Wow. Very interesting pictures that I'm seeing here. There's one of May from Overwatch. Supergirl. Jesus Christ. A My Little Pony one. Wow, this is explicit. This is explicit. All right. Widowmaker. Another My... Okay, I think we're... I probably... Let's get back to the content.
real raunchy Futanari nonsense. Now, if you don't know what that is... I highly recommend you don't Google it, okay?
Oh,
now, Apple is basically inventing a new service from the name of Neural Match, okay? Basically, the service will be taking hashes from known illegal material, like illegal files. So you can imagine what illegal images means. It could be whatever snuff that gets shared around on the deepest trenches of Facebook, whatever you want to call it, right? Like the worst stuff that humanity has dug up. So they're taking known hashes, apparently, of illegal files. Files that get seized by the FBI, by numerous agencies,
that's
and
interesting.
They get added to a database of known files that are illegal.
That's actually something I didn't know. I thought that they were just gonna like scan through your stuff, and they were gonna be like, "Oh, this is this and this is that," and I was like, "Oh, that's a little weird." But this makes sense. Like, so pictures that are like known on an FBI database. Okay, that sounds reasonable.
So, for instance, all right, let's say that you have a massive tragedy, right? And it has a violent footage attached.
A match of tragedy? It's not that big.
For instance, all right, let's say that you have a massive tragedy, right? And it has a violent footage attached to it. And people are just sharing it around like no tomorrow. Well, in a lot of places now, hosting those files is actually illegal. Now, those files come with hashes, perceptual image hashes.
Okay.
And if those files are cataloged and stored, what Apple can do is download those known illegal hashes of those files, compare it to the hashes on your device.
Okay.
And if they find a match, then you could be triggered for some sort of a search. At least that's what it sounds like. Now,
that sounds fair. You know what is messed up that people probably aren't talking about? So from what he just said, it sounds like if the FBI tags a particular picture and you have that picture on your thing, then somebody's going to have to, there's going to be a person's job or a group of people, their job is designated to be looking through your iCloud. I think it's from your cloud. That's what my understanding is. I read a little bit about this. They're going to have to look through your cloud to see and confirm the image, which means that there's going to be people whose job it is to look at CP. And I know this sounds terrible, but I remember hearing something about an FBI agent whose job it was to go after predators, underage predators. And like they ended up getting, like, for lack of a better term, addicted to the material they were looking at. Which is like messed up. Like, imagine it's your job every single day looking at it over and over and over and over and over again. Like, at some point, it probably fucks up your brain, And like, it probably really fucks up your brain to like look at CP all the time as your job to like get rid of it. And like, I feel bad for those people because it just sounds fucked up. Imagine basically getting groomed by your job to like illegal material. If you really think about it. And I don't think people talk about the mental health stress that could come out of this. So.
Understand.
No, they said they don't send a person on your phone. They just look at the code. No. I understand. But like he just said, like they're going to have a person verify it. I would assume, right? It's the same thing as when if you run like a camera, a traffic camera, they have somebody, it'll flag it. And then somebody will like review it themselves to make sure it wasn't a bad flash. So like there's a dude whose job it is to do this. And his name is EDP445 and James Charles and Joe Robe. And Gemini.
And I've found confirmation from somebody known as Matthew Green, okay, who's someone that teaches cryptography at Johns Hopkins. So an actual expert over here, no joke. This person has said, I've had independent confirmation from multiple people that Apple is releasing a client-side tool for CSAM scanning tomorrow. This is a really bad idea. Now, I've read this, and I guess we're a day late here, actually, ladies and gentlemen. It's apparently live today. If you got an iPhone, well, it's probably running this tool, according to this post right here. So,
guess I'm going to have to get an Android.
a little update to the whole video. It seems like today, August 5th, TechCrunch was told by Apple that they're actually planning on putting this kind of stuff in, at least for iCloud and iMessage and various services that they have. And they did say that Dropbox, Google, Microsoft already scan user files, which I absolutely agree with, and I'm mentioning in this video too. It's going to be a little all over the place, especially with these like post updates. They did say neural hash will land in iOS 15 and the next Mac OS that comes out, Monterey, I guess. I don't even know how they named these ones, but whatever. Anytime you modify an image slightly, it changes the hashes and can prevent matching. Apple says neural hash tries to ensure that identical and visual similarly images. In fact, right here, I think this page just got updated with Apple where they're actually telling you that they're putting expanded protections for kids in iOS 15, new iPad, watchOS, and macOS.
This is great. I mean, honestly, I wish TikTok would do something like this. We have shit like this happening all the time. Like, it's finally they're stepping up and doing something. So far, so
and then
good.
They've got like an example over here. So if you're on iMessages and let's say that, the on-device intelligence, which these devices come with like neural processors, Apple devices are pretty good for that. They actually have like intervention. So if you do get like a weird message, like right here, check out this photo, weird sensitive photo. I mean, I guess you can open this one, but then like if you do, your parents get a notification, which is interesting. And I'm sure parents, if they're connected in the iCloud system, can probably tighten things up even harder.
Oh wait, that's a little different. So like this seems to be just a general one about receiving and sending adult images to children. So now a child can get a sensitive message and the parent will see it. This is fantastic. So far, what I'm seeing, this is amazing. We're always talking about how there are kids talking to each other on fucking Snapchat and shit, sending each other disgusting pictures. They shouldn't be doing that. This is good so far. This is good. The one bad thing though is imagine like you're fucking 15 years old and you're talking to like your boyfriend or something, and like your boyfriend sends you his dick, and then like your mom opens it and goes, "What the fuck?" You know what I mean? Like, as it seems like they can view the photo on their phone. That's weird. Actually, now I'm a little grossed out because I feel bad for parents. That would be disgusting. That was fucking horrendous. Just thinking about it like as if I'm not a parent yet, but I'm going to be. I don't know how. Now I'm a little skeptical. I'm not going to let my kid have a phone. I'm going to give him a flip phone that can't receive or send messages, can't do Snapchat, any of that stuff.
Parents,
it wouldn't apply to Snapchat, and so that's true. But like, they might implement their own thing at some point.
if they're connected in the iCloud
But then, like, kids are dumb. Maybe they're using the message and they go, "Oopsie."
system,
whatever.
can probably tighten things up even harder. Which, I mean, all of this is nice stuff to add for sure. I mean, I obviously understand, like, at some point with technology like this, you do have to sort of sympathize, and you sort of have to understand that there has to be like an in-between, if you will. But it is way more nuanced still. Let's get down to the rest of the video. But the reality is, let's get down to what actually is really happening, the actual truth behind it. Because that's something I like to do on this channel. Now, ladies and gentlemen, these are two images, right? As an example, this is illegalimage.jpg, and that's legalimage.png. There's no reason, I'm just naming them for an example. The illegal image is obviously my face, it's illegal in some places, I'm pretty sure. Now, if I use the MD5 sum, and you can just calculate calculate these real quickly. The illegal image's sum is 798D0EBFB, right? And a string of numbers that comes afterwards. Now, the legal image is this string of characters, C4B81C9BA. Okay. At the very, very, very layman's level term, what this means is that on Apple's servers and Apple's devices, when they're checking for known illegal hashes, let's say that the illegal image, which could be anything illegal, right, has been captured by the FBI or any Europol agency that you can find, any law enforcement group. Now, they send this to a giant, like, neural farm, a giant catalog of illegal files. So now the hash has been registered as illegal. So this is a very quick way to tell if an illegal file is shared, right? Now, what's going on here is something even wilder called perceptual hash checking, right? And I guess I'm going to explain what's going on.
I totally understand everything he's saying, just so you guys know. But I'm going to... It's good that for you guys, he's dumbing it down for you guys. Layman's terms, you know?
This is something that occurs on every cloud service anyways. Whether you use Google Cloud, whether you use, I guess, even iCloud or Microsoft, a lot of these services have design tools. Google actually uses something called YouTube CSAI, which actually detects illegal material. If you upload anything wrong to YouTube, it'll check against that, and then if it finds a match, you're screwed. Same with Microsoft, same with really any organization.
Interesting.
So to understand what's going on, very lighthearted example. Let's say that you wanted to build a neural AI engine to find cakes, right, in an image. So the way that you do it is you take actual pictures of cakes, all kinds of cakes, red velvet cake, white cake, black cake, brown cake, mousse cake.
Sounds pretty good. Personally, I prefer my girlfriend's cake, but those, I mean, I would take a look at those cakes. Maybe the Fudanari cakes. Not too bad. It wasn't good. Sorry. Wait, that's not what I meant. I'm going to delete this part of the... I'm going to edit this out.
Cream cake. All the kind of cakes you can find.
Not even, I
the
can't
more, the better. Because the way artificial intelligence works is the more information it has to work with, the more information it can discern, the better its detection mechanisms usually are.
Okay.
So basically, if I had a giant cake AI where I fed it like a million images of cake, right? The AI would be so good at finding cakes that I could take any image like this, for instance, right? It could look at me real quick. So the way that perceptual hashing is working is that it takes a check of my face.
Okay.
It makes this a hash. It makes this monitor a hash. It makes that TV a hash. It makes this G Fuel tower a hash. You understand what I'm going with, right? So everything over here has a hash, meaning that even if the image is contorted, twisted, you know, scaled differently, it will still be able to roughly identify these products, right? So even if I flip the image, the actual hashing will be able to identify that's the monitor, but it's just flipped, right? If I stretch my face out, it'll say, okay, that's just Mudahar, but stretched out a little bit. Now, what it's not able to do is find a cake, because if it has a million references of cake to work with, there's clearly no cake in the image. So at that point, it just doesn't work. All right, so that's kind of a rough example of what's going on. And that's basically, if this is to be believed, what Matthew Green is saying, this is kind of what Apple is bringing onto the table.
Okay.
Now, the problem with this is it's incredibly privacy breaking in a lot of ways. Now, Apple is a company that says privacy is a fundamental human right. At Apple, it's also one of our core values. Your devices are important to so many parts of your life. What you share with those experiences and who you share it with should be up to you. And Apple is really big on privacy to the point where they're pissing off all of their friends in Silicon Valley. If you don't know, Facebook...
I mean, listen, I'm fine with the compromising a little bit of my privacy so that, like, you can look at my dick, whatever. At least you're saving kids. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's fine. I don't give a shit. To me, personally. You'd also just not use the particular service, but...
And all of its services are actually a little bit pissed at Apple right now, because Apple is starting to do these like nutritional labels, like
I like that. Actually, they're fucking cool. It says app not to track, which is really good because I download a lot of mobile games, and like I tried different mobile games, and they that's what they do. They get you to download the game just so they can take your information and sell it. So like, hey, this is great. Tell them not to ask for fuck that. Don't ask for my information, bitch.
Hey, this game you're downloading, it can check your camera. It fucks around with your microphone. Hey, it looks into your contact data. Hey, they know how big your dick is. That's kind of what Apple's been doing lately.
Well, if you do know how big my dick is, just so you know, I have big hands, okay? So it looks a little... You know what I mean? It's like... You ever see Shaquille O'Neal holding a water bottle? You know, this is kind of like me. You know what I mean? Like, it looks small in his hands, but like, when you think about it, a water bottle's pretty big. It's at the very least satisfactory to some women. You know what I mean?
Lately, and it's been pissing everyone off. They also have a built-in system feature to like prevent tracking, like do not track, like literally prevent all the tracking angles from these applications. How effective is it is a different story, but Apple's been pissing off their friends like that. However, if this is to be believed, if they're implementing a tool like this directly onto the device that no one can opt out of, this kind of brings privacy into a bigger of a question. Now, at the end of the day, Apple is a company that was sued by the FBI. They had a big legal case with the FBI around 2015, 2016.
Interesting.
And even though Apple stood up to the FBI, there has to be compromises behind the scenes. Obviously, you have to imagine that at some point, there's only so far you can get with that. If the government wants something, they'll get something, all right? Now, there's been a lot of discussion online, like this is only going to be limited to helping children out, right? With illegal material and whatnot, which is a noble cause. And it's very hard to argue against it. And in a lot of ways, I just don't want to argue against it. The technology already exists in cloud services. And the fact that it does exist to identify illegal imagery and to report it appropriately and quickly is something that I really don't have an issue with.
Okay.
What I do have an issue with is when you can't opt out and when it's done on a local device that you purchased.
I don't know, man. I feel like, you know, from my perspective, we do a lot of like conversations about protecting children and whatnot. Like, this is what I do. A lot of what I do is like I do some funny, goofy stuff, but like the core of my content really is talking about predators, predatory interactions, like the nuances of a lot of these interactions. And for me personally, like this doesn't matter to me. I'm fine with giving up some of my privacy to make sure that children are protected. And so like I feel like, and I understand people have different perspectives because they have different interpretations of the world and whatnot. But like for me, I feel like as a man, as somebody who identifies very strongly as a man, as somebody like that word means a lot to me. Like being a man means a lot to me. Being a woman means a lot to you know, not me because I'm not a woman, but you know, so I put a lot of value in like you could be a man, but like I'm a man. You understand? Or you could be a woman. But like, Mama Gut's a woman, and like, I'm like it just you know, it really is something that like I'm fine with compromising privacy to protect children. So like, I feel like people should feel that way. You know, let the FBI see your dick, put a predator in jail. Sounds like a good exchange. You know what I mean? I'll do it. I don't care. You know, maybe they'll like it. Everybody wins.
Apple devices have been touted as privacy-focused devices, and if you're implementing services like this, well, sure, nobody else is spying on you, but now you've invited a third-party company into your house that basically says, we have this giant camera on you, okay? We'll only use it if you're doing bad things.
Is it a third party?
We promise. Now, when you're dealing with neural networks and artificial intelligence,
That's interesting. I didn't think it was a third-party company. That makes me, that I guess, suppose that, I mean, it is what it is. I'm still fine with it. But that is a little bit suspicious. That's a third-party company. Maybe that this is one of those things that should be government-run. Not that the government is super trustworthy, but...
Positives are a pretty common thing that can happen, okay? By developing a lot of these image, detection tools, you're going to have situations where it fucks up. I mean, computers are not the smartest things in the world. They're good when given proper instructions, but they really lack that humanness to it, right? So they're going to make false positives, and you're going to have an actual human being look into those false positives.
I told you.
Now,
What'd I say?
The situation really screams out that Apple will be able to grab every single image and look through. So if you have something personal, right? Maybe you, your family, your kids, or something else that could trip a false positive, anything could trip a false positive, there's nothing that says they can grab each individual file and look. What may happen is they'll look at those cryptographic hashes, they'll probably make a good educated guess, and maybe an investigation gets launched, if it gets that far. A lot of these engines are getting better over time.
I think I understand what he's saying. I think what he's saying is that they don't have to actually look at the picture, they could just look at like whatever fucking computer jargon that makes an image,
idea. I mean, even Matthew has no fucking idea what's going on with what algorithm Apple is really truly bringing to the party. So if it's sufficiently advanced enough, I mean, false positives need to be eliminated as quick as possible.
Okay.
But it's going to happen one way or another. The other big issue is something that we call collision attacks. Now, in some cases, and it's not super likely. In some cases, you can have a situation where the cryptographic hashes match. There are plenty of attacks that exist to sort of spoof or cause a higher rate of collision attacking. Now, the big question here...
Wait, so does that mean that like somebody could orchestrate a totally normal image to look like a bad image? But by that logic, it sounds like you can make it so that a bad image looks like a good image to these programs, which means that, like, is this doing as much good as we think? Because I would imagine that, like, predators would probably access this information and figure out how to do this. Like, they'll work around it if they're that, like, if they're that committed to it. So I would assume that, like, the bigwig, you know, CP spreaders would probably figure a way around this, while like the small-time idiots would get caught, which is still not bad that they get caught. But
here, before we go back to you know, the collision attacking, because it's very important for this statement, is will this technology only be used to attack illegal things? Now, illegal things can mean a lot depending on where you live. Apple operates in almost every country. China is one of them. Now, Chinese people are great. I love China, but their government is very questionable.
I'm about to say, I was like, you love China? Well, fuck you. China's terrible. Chinese people are pretty chill. Like, they're fine. But the government itself is awful.
In a lot of ways, right? And unfortunately, in China, you don't really have that right to question your government, right? It's fucked up, it's wrong,
sure.
And no matter what, most people tend to disagree with it when they're out of that area.
Yeah.
Now, in China, Apple has already kind of complied with Chinese regulations by, you know, sort of stopping VPNs back in the day.
We are writing to notify you that your application will be removed from the China App Store to include content that is legal. Jesus.
Okay. But in reality, with China, let's say that you're, you know, somebody that's not well off, or even if you're like a rich billionaire, the government, the state definitely has some level of say over anything that you do. Lately, one of the biggest tech companies in the world, Tencent from China, which effectively is their version of Google, it might be the biggest tech company in the world at this point, had a massive drop in shares, actually, and they're kind of recovering because the state government decided out of nowhere to just call the video gaming industry, Tencent's games, really a form of spiritual opium, or effectively just crack. And dude, I don't even disagree with the government on that one, but within a second they kind of, you know, called and sort of tempered, you know, humbled, if you will, Tencent in a way, right? In a way, it's a...
I have a feeling this guy's sponsored by G Fuel.
Place where, like, no matter how well off you are, no matter where you are, saying anything against the government is basically your death knell. You've basically,
because he has a lot of energy. That's why I made that assumption.
Basically sign your fucking death warrant the moment you go up against the party. So now in a place where,
he is,
you know,
good guess.
I would assume with this kind of a technology, is Apple potentially compelled to comply with their, you know, requirements? Imagine.
I can't really blink without triggering my... I winked and now my Tourette's triggers are going off.
For some reason, Winnie the Pooh is a big problem. You can't really share Winnie the Pooh in China because people use Winnie the Pooh to make fun of their actual premier, prime minister, president. I think it's president.
What the
but
fuck?
Basically, the idea
funny.
is that imagine if Chinese people are sharing Winnie the fucking Pooh all the time on their devices with all slogans and everything. You know, basic. Just to counter the government in a way, right? Maybe a resistance, maybe, you know, some second party trying to stand up to the big boys. Could you imagine for a second that if this technology is used against dissenters, what could happen? I mean,
that's
fair. Understand.
But like the technology exists already, right? Oh, so I think that his claim is like, oh, maybe that China will say, Apple, now that you have this thing that protects against child porn, we don't care about that, but we want you to find images of Winnie the Pooh so we can put people in jail. That's fair.
If the government of China has like 1 billion hashes
it's pretty
for
tame.
Anti-government propaganda, imagine running that against Chinese cellular devices or iPhones in general and having people get caught because of their anti-government dissent. That's fucking dangerous. Again, this is under the principle that this technology launches anywhere but the United States, and again, it's also under the assumption
Bro, it's
that
only
it
in my left ear. I'm going to kill myself.
What it's detecting, and again, it's really up to a government to compel Apple.
I just felt like you didn't have to do this.
Apple
it's triggering me. I have like weird sensory issues. This really pissed me off.
I mean, they have the money too, but again, there's a lot of assumptions on that. I just want to make that clear. Now, this gets a little scarier when we go back to the collision attacking. Somebody could send you a seemingly innocent image of, like, you know, Hello fucking Kitty. Turns out it might have the same perceptual hash in some way as a known anti-propaganda image that the government doesn't want you to have. Well, what happens then? How do you argue that? I mean, there's going to have to be an investigation. Your life's going to be made a bit of a hell for a while, and that's a big problem that we see right there.
So, but so I imagine if I made this software, because I'm a genius, what I would do is I would have, obviously, whatever this perceptual hash is, but then if it went through, you'd actually physically look at the picture, and then you'd be like, oh, it's just some bullshit. You know what I mean? So I feel like it wouldn't be that crazy if there was false positives.
But we're really skipping into, what I would think is the theoreticals in this case. I've noticed in society, though, whenever you have, like, nowadays, whenever you mention kids, or really anything that can emotionally impact somebody heavily, is often used and conflated to really allow this kind of overreach. At the end of the day, I don't disagree with the idea of stopping truly sick individuals and criminals from sharing illegal files all around. I'm actually completely okay with that. What I am against with is this level of basic user privacy breaching, okay?
But my question is, like, what else could you do? Other than implement a system that monitors whether there's literal child porn on an app or something, you know what I mean, or in like a particular space. Like, I feel like I don't think that he's being malicious in any contact or any capacity at all. But there's quite literally no way to initiate policing and protecting of children in this context, in this capacity, in this field, without everybody giving up a little bit of their privacy. And so the question here really boils down to, like, are you okay with giving up a little bit of privacy to a machine and potentially a couple people that might look at it to protect, like, kids? And that's the question. And I think that the answer is, yeah, I'm willing, 100%. We're in the internet age. It's hard to have 100% privacy, and yeah, people do have a choice. You could not use Apple, and it's also, I'm just saying, you could just not use an Apple device. But also, I think it's a society question, because obviously you'd want to monitor every space in order to make this work out better.
Okay, at the end of the day, no matter how you look at it, if this system gets implemented, it is privacy breaching, and it does come with its own problems.
Sure.
Because computers have false positives all the time. Look, different issue, but YouTubers have to deal with a fuck ton of issues regarding just YouTube's bot in general too. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have to wonder how this is all going to play out. But right now, I wanted to give the real truth behind the situation, sort of tell you that, hey, Apple might be implementing this thing. They might even have it implemented right now as part of this new update or something. They're really checking for known hashes. Now, there are issues with how those known perceptual hashes work, but until I actually get to see how complex Apple's system is, they may have solved it. They may have solved a lot of these issues. But in reality, you do still have to agree on the fact that now you have an unopt-outable situation by purchasing one of their devices, and if this is implemented, your Apple device will now consistently and constantly use neural engines to scan hashes of each and every file you make. So, depending on how you feel on that, may be into consideration when you're buying your next device. Do you want to continue?
You know what's interesting, and this is completely out of this guy. This has nothing to do with this guy, but I do find it interesting that, like, it's more conservative leaning people, and again, I don't even know his thing. He's not part of this, but more conservative leaning people are very concerned about their privacy. But they're also the ones that are like, yeah, like stop and frisk kind of things are okay, because like if you have nothing to hide, it shouldn't matter if you get stopped and frisked, you know what I mean? Like, it's always like, it's okay. Violation of privacy is okay unless it's my privacy, is generally, from what I've seen, the more conservative perspective. I'm just saying, like, they're like, yeah, it's fine that Muslim people get picked out at the airports to get blah 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 blah. You know what I'm trying to say? To get searched privately. It's all, like, they're like, oh, that's fine, but it's because it's not them. I'm just saying.
You and have your privacy potentially be breached? Do you want to go to Google or various other Android manufacturers that may also just be doing the exact same thing anyways? Or do you want to go and build your own Mudaphone or get a Freedom Phone where you may have more inconveniences, but at least the APIs and systems aren't there?
Or, hot take, you could just not use iCloud or any service, like buy a flip phone and don't use your phone,
in order to constantly assess and, run hash checks on every single file that you have. It's getting kind of scary now in a world where every single system that we have is constantly connected to some back-end internet service, and there is a form of checking. At this point, our devices are not ours anymore, okay? We're just authorized users on a device that we purchase or rent from another big company anyways.
You could really just not use this stuff.
So, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. Hope you actually learned something.
I did.
This is me, Mudahar, and I
learned.
I
learned. I learned a lot. I learned what
Guys and gals, me
Fudanari was, or whatever he's talking about. Alrighty.